Boker, Shalom. Hello everybody, Brandy Bear here, and I am back with day 2 of pictures from my Israel trip. Again, this is 2 out of 8. If you haven't seen the first one and you want to, I'm going to put a link in this general area, so if one of those annoying little in-video links pops up, it's me telling you to go watch the first one, if you want to. Okay, so this first picture is of Masada. Masada is in the desert regions of Israel, and Masada is also the place of one of King Herod's castles. And I know I said in the recent video that I said King Herod when I meant King Hezekiah, but this time I actually do mean King Herod. So here is Masada, the Mount Masada. This is what we're walking along. It's called the Snake Path. It's sort of like a winding road. This is the road that they would usually take up there because you can't just go straight up. You have to kind of zigzag your way along. Apparently what they would do is they would actually release donkeys because donkeys, they will find the quickest, most convenient, easygoing path to get up a mountain. So apparently if they find, what they used to do is they would find a mountain and then they would release a donkey, and the donkey would walk around the mountain and it would find the easiest way to get up, and then they would just build a path after the donkey. So that's pretty interesting. Very, very long, exhausting walk up there. We went up like a couple hundred feet. It was a lovely morning hike. Okay, so here is me at one of the, here's me along the snake path of Masada. I'm just kind of staring at the sun, trying to look epic. Here is yet another one of me staring at the sun, trying to look epic. So you can see some of Masada, you can see a little bit of like some desert in the background, some mountain, a little bit of the Dead Sea. That's what that body of water is, the sky. This is generally a very nice picture, I thought. And then this is us looking down at some remains of a town. At the bottom of Masada, they would usually, or like any castle, they would usually have somewhat of a town or a residential structure, and that's what these remains are. Okay, so this is me and one of the other people in our group. His name is Zachariah. So here's us on the snake path. Again, mountains, Dead Sea, desert in the background. Zachariah is originally from South Sudan, and he was having a bit of a hard time getting up the mountain. So I stayed behind and walked with him. We talked a lot, took some pictures. It was pretty cool. Okay, so here's us in the entranceway to Herod's palace. So I'm sitting here next to the plasters. This photo looks really awkward, I think, but the cool thing is that these plasters, these little blocks in the wall that you see behind me, these are the original plasters. So these plasters are over 2,000 years old, originally from biblical times. So these, I don't remember the exact year that this was made, but these would have been from around the time of Jesus, because that's when Herod was in charge. So here's the top of Masada. Obviously, the castle is really not a big thing anymore because they took it down, over 2,000 years, used the bricks for something else, and a lot of it became rubble. The Romans attacked it. So this is a little bit of what's left. This is a picture of me with Joe Stoll and his wife. So this is a pretty cool, Joe Stoll's the president of Cornerstone University, by the way. So here I am wearing my Cornerstone shirt. And it's a cool picture. It's a cool picture, maybe a little bit of brownie points. Yet another selfie. I took this after another person asked me if I was Jewish. Because like I said, apparently I look super Jewish. And like I said that in the last video. Somebody else asked me if I was Jewish, and I took a picture to see how Jewish looking I was. I don't know. So this is a wall towards the end of Masada Fortress. Then here's what we're doing right now is we're going into a cistern. I talked about them before, but cisterns, they're big, sort of like vats that are carved into the rock. to store rainwater because it rains. In some areas of Israel, it rains only 2 inches a day, and it could possibly all fall in one day. So they had these things called cisterns, which collected the rainwater and kept it safe from evaporation or anything. The water got really, really messy and dirty from not being fresh all the time because they had to store it. So sometimes bacteria grew or creatures would live in it. Um, so it wasn't very healthy. Hence why they drink lots of fermented stuff like wine and beer in the old days, as well as the parable of Jesus being living water instead of cistern water. But again, I'll talk about that in another video when it's a bit more relevant. So here is the inside of the cistern. There's the hole where some of the water would come in, and then here's us walking around. Sorry for the shaky picture, but yeah, so here's us walking around the cistern. So you can kind of imagine that, they made a whole lot of room to store all this water because not only are they in the desert region where it only rains about 2 inches a year, but they're also up high at the Dead Sea. So, they need the water. Otherwise, they would have to he would send slaves down all the way down to ravines and stuff to fetch water, and they couldn't drink the water from the Dead Sea, which is right by them, because again, it's got like salt and magnesium in it, so it's not very good. Then here's some people that just carved on the inside of the cistern. I thought it was kind of cool that people leave their marks. I mean, it kind of destroys the site, but it makes it more modern at the same time that people left their marks. So here's me looking over Masada towards the Dead Sea. This is part of King Herod's fortress. I'm not sure what part this was, but this is what an ancient wall would look like. This is original from the time of Herod. Another view over the cliff at the Dead Sea. So what we're looking in here now, with these behind these two little pillars here that you see kind of at the bottom right, this is part of Herod's throne room. So back there in that little room there is where his throne room, that's where he would sit, that's where he would have his guards and everything, and that's where people would come to visit him at. And apparently people had to stay behind the pillars because Herod was super, super paranoid that somebody was out to get him, so he had a whole bunch of guards, and you were not allowed to cross the pillars or you would get killed. So here's some original mosaic. Mosaic floors showed the wealth of people, so Herod, of course, had mosaic floors because he was a king. Here's a little bit more of a mosaic. Then here is a window. I think it looks pretty cool. This is a bit more of an overview of Masada and Dead Sea. There's quite a bit of these pictures. Here's another one, speaking of. Okay, so I mentioned how my nickname Brandy Bear came from one of my fraternity brothers. Well, this is not the fraternity brother, but this is another brother from my fraternity. Yeah, I'm a member of Zeta Beta Tau. So it was really cool to see another one. It's originally it's a Jewish-based fraternity, so there's a lot of brothers that try to go to the Holy Land at least once in their life, and I just happened to see this guy. He's a founding father of one of the chapters. It was awesome to meet him. My chapter's kind of weird in as far as ZBT nationals go. So he's like completely new to ZBT. Like he hasn't been to any of the nationals or anything. He's within like the first month of being a ZBT member, and of course he would be unlucky enough to meet one of the ZBT outcasts. Like when we get together and we sing our fraternity song at nationals, like everybody else sings it and my chapter screams it because we're loud and obnoxious. So I felt that the meeting was kind of awkward. Well, awkward was kind of meeting. Yay! But anyway, I felt the meeting was a little bit awkward just because like I was so ecstatic to meet another brother, and he was just kind of, you could tell he was so new to it. Anyway, yeah, like I said, it was kind of awkward, but it was really, really cool. I'm a ZBT alumni. He's a new founding father. He's probably from a relatively normal chapter, and I'm from an extremely weird chapter, so it was just an interesting experience overall. Okay, here's some more Masada. Then here's another mosaic. I like hexagons. Um, I guess I really should have put this at the beginning, but typophobia warning. Typophobia is like a fear of small shapes, like in conjoined places. I don't know exactly what it's. I don't know, fear of like infection or danger or something, because it reminds people of like blisters or beehives or whatever. But yeah, so a bit late, but typophobia warning. Then here's part of the Herod's bathhouse. What he would do is, you see these little pipes back here? Well, he wanted the walls to be heated, so what they would do is they would have these against um, openings in the floor so that the walls would pick up the steam from the hot water beneath, so it would make the walls hot. Here's an overhead view of Masada. Here's some more Masada. Here's the desert valley. Okay, here's a sign. It says dangerous curves, as you can obviously see. I don't know why. I saw these signs a lot because Israel has lots of curved roads. But for English, when we call girls busty or we call them curvy. And for some reason, I don't know why, but in light of girls being called curvy, I thought dangerous curves was just really, really funny for some reason. So, dangerous curves. Okay, here's another picture of the temple at Masada. Oh, hold up. That is actually not at Masada. This is En Gedi, not the Serengeti, just En Gedi. This is another temple attributed to Hezekiah. So here's a bit of an overhead view of the synagogue or the temple area. So it has this little space towards the middle. Then as far as you get more up towards the picture, you see this little alleyway, and then at the very top, this little place. I can't point my finger at it, but the place closest to the fence, there's this little tombstone-looking thing, and that is considered to be the Holy of Holies. It's not the original Jewish synagogue, but it's pretty cool. So here's another look at it, and here's an even closer look at it. Here's a sign that says Be'er Shiva. Be'er Shiva is very, very common and often referenced in the Bible, so I thought I'd take a picture of it. Okay, so here we are at Arad. It's sort of like a zoo area. So here's a mountain. Then here, these little caves. This is, if you know the Bible story, when David was running away from Solomon and Solomon was looking for him. Uh, in the Bible story, it says that, I think it was First or Second Kings, but Solomon goes into a cave to relieve himself, and David comes up and cuts a part of his cloak off. Then as Solomon walks away, David shows up and he's like, "Hey, I could have killed you, but I didn't. Stop persecuting me." This is the cave. This is the cave where that happened. So here is a stream. Um, so I've talked a lot about cisterns and about dead water, and so there actually are some places where there is running water. So here's a bit more of the mountain. This is kind of cool because the closer we get to the water, the more life you see. So here's this cool little like tunnel. So here is part of a waterfall, and this is why it's so cool, is because you've seen in this past video, just the one that I'm doing right now, the past couple pictures, you've seen like this dry, deserted mountain land where people made giant crevices in the rock to hold 2 inches of rainwater, and there's so much like irrigation and stuff that happened. People not even being able to use the local river water or the sea water. There's so much dependence on water just because we're naturally humans. And this is why, I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit of a theological rant here, but this is why it's so cool that, when Jesus says that he is the living water, this is what he means. It's water that is going through rocks, it's naturally getting clean, naturally getting filtered, it's always flowing, and it brings life, it brings beauty, it brings like these, green pastures, it brings plants, it brings all this stuff that we associate with life. as opposed to a dead water cistern carved into a mountain. So I think like that really brings the theological point to life, and I think that's just so it's just so amazing. I really can't put it into words. But yeah, so Jesus being the living water and seeing a stream in the mountains of Israel. It's yeah. All right, so here's me standing in front of the streams. As you can see, a bit more green. Here I am. Again, yet again, I was walking up, and there was actually two kids that thought I was Jewish. So one of them comes up, and he starts speaking Hebrew to me. I don't really respond, and then he asks me where I'm from. I say America. Then, maybe 15 minutes later, I'm walking. Another kid comes up and starts talking to me in Hebrew. I don't respond. We start talking in English, and he asks me if I'm Jewish. So again, apparently, I just look super Jewish. Here's me with my roommate. His name is David. You can see a little bit of the pool in the background. But yeah, David was an awesome guy. I really enjoyed rooming with him. Um, we talked a lot about the sights that we saw and all that. Definitely a very good prayer warrior. A good guy. Here's a bit of a recycling bin. I just think it's really cool because they're all about recycling and reusing everything in Israel, having there not be trash, but just reusing every last thing that they can. And I think this is just so cool because you see like recycling bins in America and people might use them, but often they just kind of throw things on the side of the road. Whereas here people are actually really serious. I didn't see a whole lot of like plastic bottles on the side of the road, but I saw like full versions of these bottle collections like everywhere, and it was really, really awesome to see how much people care about it. So here is the Dead Sea. Um, at night. I went floating out, and again, if you're a fan of Stephen King's It, you can make your they all float down here, and you will too. Yeah, the joke has been made. It's full of salt, full of magnesium. It's really, really good for your skin. Don't get it in your eyes, or else you'll pretty much go blind. But it was really, really awesome. It felt so good. The cool thing about doing this at night was your body naturally, like I said, your body naturally floats, and then because like the magnesium and the salt and everything, if you put your ears underwater, it blocks out all the sound, so you just naturally float there and you look up and see the stars. It's it's such a calming, like really, really calming experience, and I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't all that cold. And then here, this last picture, we had this thing called the Bedouin experience. The Bedouins are desert people in Israel. They live in like little hidden caves, and they camp out in tents. They do all this interesting, like they own a lot of the livestock, and to get a wife, they need to like kidnap one of the girls or something, and then it shows that you're a man, so then the girl that you kidnap becomes your wife. It's a really weird experience, but apparently they're all about hospitality and everything. So if you ever, in the old times, if you would ever go to a Bedouin house, they would like start a fire and like make pitas and stuff. So for our Bedouin experience, our tour guide, who he apparently was like trained by Bedouins or something, but we started a little like campfire in the hotel parking lot, and we like parked the bus in front of it so that the hotel security wouldn't see us because we weren't allowed to have a bonfire. But we set up a bonfire, we had sweet tea, and then our tour guide actually taught us how to make pita bread. So here's me holding my first ever homemade pita. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, enjoyed the pictures, enjoyed the history, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please stay tuned for day number 3. See ya.